My name is Max. I am a stalker. I don't remember the exact day the world broke. Memory doesn't preserve dates, it preserves sensations. The taste of rust in the air, the smell of smoke mixed with rot, the unnatural silence that settled over cities like a burial shroud. When the noise of humanity vanished, something else filled the gap, something patient, organized, and hungry. I was a stalker long before the epidemic. Back then, it was a choice, almost a game. Abandoned factories, decaying military bases, exclusion zones where nature reclaimed concrete and steel. I learned how to move quietly, how to read ruins, how to feel when a place did not want you there. After the virus, those skills stopped being entertainment. They became the difference between waking up and never opening your eyes again. At first, the virus was just another headline, another outbreak, another cycle of panic. Doctors spoke calmly. Governments promised control. People argued endlessly online. Then the arguments stopped. Mobile networks went silent. Electricity flickered and vanished. Entire neighborhoods disappeared without a single farewell message. Silence spread faster than the infection itself. I remember walking down a central avenue in what used to be a living city. Cars stood abandoned, doors open, alarms long dead. Stores were smashed open, but nothing was taken, as if greed itself had lost meaning. Dark stains marked the asphalt. I avoided looking at them too closely. In this world, attention was a luxury few could afford. I met my first infected near a gas station. He stood with his back toward me, swaying slightly. I thought he was drunk, maybe injured. I called out. When he turned, I understood that words were no longer part of this world. His eyes were cloudy but focused. Something watched me from behind them. Not human, not animal, hungry. His jaw twitched, fingers scraping the air. I fired on instinct. The gunshot echoed far too loudly through a city that had learned to sleep forever. Then they came from everywhere. I ran through courtyards, stairwells, underground passages. My lungs burned. My heart tried to tear free from my chest. I didn't know what they were or how many existed. I only knew that the world I understood was gone, replaced by something that wanted me erased. Over time, rules emerged. Never travel in daylight, never trust silhouettes. Sound was dangerous, but smell was worse. They sensed the living like predators. This wasn't simply death walking, it was change, a restructuring of biology and purpose. The dead did not rot correctly. They didn't collapse from blood loss, destroy the brain, or they kept moving. Slow at first, relentless always. Death had learned persistence. I found shelter in an abandoned research complex beyond the city. The irony was brutal. A place once dedicated to saving humanity now hid a single armed scavenger. Diagrams covered the walls. Broken vials glittered under my flashlight. Dried stains told stories no one wanted remembered. I slept in fragments, never deeply, weapon always in reach. That was where I learned the truth. Files, logs, research reports, a synthetic strain designed to increase endurance and stress tolerance. Human trials rushed, sealed, approved, side effects minimized, warnings ignored, progress charts marked acceptable. The world was not infected, the world was released. From that moment on, survival wasn't enough. I needed answers. Not for humanity, humanity had already failed. For myself. Because knowing who opened the gates of hell meant knowing where to walk next. At night, I could feel them gathering outside. Not randomly, purposefully. They always knew where I was. I left at dawn. Each night brought more of them. I packed food, ammunition, filters, medical supplies, and an old map marked with red circles. One point lay far north, buried deep underground. The road was a graveyard, highways clogged with overturned trucks, suitcases scattered like dropped hopes, skeletons slumped in cars where people waited for rescue that never came. Civilization had taught us patience. The apocalypse punished it. I learned to hunt small game, to collect rainwater, to sleep inside walls instead of rooms. Nights were the worst. Darkness carried movement. Sometimes I heard breathing inches from my face and forced myself not to react. On a bridge, I saw dozens of infected standing motionless, heads tilted slightly as if listening to a command I couldn't hear. That was when I realized they were not mindless. Near dusk, I encountered other survivors. 3 of them. Armed, exhausted, suspicious. We stared at each other too long. Trust was more lethal than the virus. Names no longer mattered. Only roles. They told me cities fell within days. The military fought until ammunition ran out, then became part of the outbreak. They spoke of regions with fewer infected, and of changes. Faster variants, smarter ones that observed before attacking. We stayed overnight in a roadside motel. I kept watch. That was when I heard whispering, not screams, actual words. An infected stood in the hallway, staring directly at me. He didn't attack. He waited. I fired. Chaos erupted. We escaped, but one didn't make it. His screams stayed with me long after the sound itself faded. I stopped sleeping that night. I still hear him sometimes. After that, we separated. Groups don't last long in a dead world. Ahead rose a radio tower, maybe a signal, maybe answers, maybe death. I went anyway. The tower was guarded deliberately, infected positioned like sentries. A generator powered a glowing container nearby. Inside were people who called themselves listeners, engineers, former soldiers, signal experts. They weren't monitoring radio. They were tracking frequencies that emerged with the virus. Signals that moved infected populations, gathered them, redirected them. The virus coordinated. They gave me coordinates to a deeper place. Underground. The origin. My name is Max. The tunnels led to a functioning facility. Clean walls, active lights, surveillance cameras that followed movement with unnatural precision. This place had never truly shut down. In Sector B, an infected spoke my name. His name was Sergei, a biologist. Still conscious, barely. The virus rewrites, he said. The body remains. The mind is repurposed. We are bridges between what was and what comes next. Below waited Anna. She was alive, calm, studying maps of infected movement like a conductor watching an orchestra. This isn't failure, she said. It's selection. Humanity never evolves voluntarily. I understood then. The epidemic was not an accident. It was design. She offered me a role, a mediator between worlds. I refused. When alarms wailed, I destroyed the control systems. Fire, pressure, screams followed. I freed Sergei. He thanked me before the facility collapsed. The world remained broken, but freer. And I changed. They hunted me. The virus responded through me. I sensed infected before I saw them. Direction, distance, intent. I met others like me. Transitional survivors. Marta, Leon, Dennis. Dennis didn't survive. He asked me not to let him turn. I kept my promise. Anna spoke through the infected. You will still become part of it, she said. She was half right. The final node lay beneath a dead megacity. Anna waited. She showed me the hive. Order without choice. Stability without freedom. Kill her. Chaos. replace her, control. I disconnected her. The hive chose me. After Anna's death, the world did not burn. It calmed. The infected withdrew from survivors. Some even guarded them. I became the signal. Not a god, not a hero, a boundary. I no longer feared darkness. Once I saw a living child on a rooftop, waving. Beside him stood an infected, motionless, guarding. The world did not return. It adapted. My name is Max. I am a stalker. And I still stand between you and them. After the world calmed, my journey did not end. Silence is not peace. It is a pause. For months, I wandered alone through regions the infected had abandoned. Entire cities stood intact, untouched, as if preserved for ghosts. In one of them, I found a community of survivors hiding underground. They called themselves the Quiet Ones. They had learned to live without fire, without machines, without voices above a whisper. Children were taught silence before speech. They were afraid of me. Not because of my weapon, but because the infected outside parted when I approached. They watched from windows as I passed, realizing that whatever I was, I no longer belonged to their kind. I stayed only one night, long enough to see fear replace hope in their eyes. Later, far to the east, I encountered something worse than the hive, a fractured zone. Here the signal was weak, broken. The infected moved without coordination, attacking anything that lived, including each other. Buildings burned. The air smelled of blood and electricity. I understood then what Anna had truly been, not a tyrant, but a stabilizer. It took days for me to pull the signal together. Pain, unlike anything before, tore through my skull as I forced order into chaos. When it was explainable again, I collapsed for hours. When I woke, the infected stood in a circle around me, not guarding, watching. That was when I accepted the truth. I could not go back. I could not age normally. I could not disappear quietly. As long as I lived, the balance held, and when I died, someone else would feel the call. Now I leave markers, signs only stalkers understand, not warnings, invitations. Somewhere out there, another will hear the silence speak. Months later, I crossed paths with people who tried to kill me on sight. They called themselves the Purifiers. Former civilians, former soldiers, former believers in simple answers. They believed the infection could be erased only by fire, and that I was the source of it. To them, I wasn't human. I was proof that the world had chosen something else. They tracked me for days, setting traps, burning areas where the infected gathered. I avoided killing them. Not out of mercy, but because every human death echoed strangely through the signal, like a wrong note in a familiar melody. When they finally cornered me in the ruins of a church, I disarmed their leader and let him live. "Then end it," he screamed. "End yourself." I couldn't explain to him that if I did, the world would scream louder than he ever could. Later, far from any known roads, I sensed something new, a weak echo. At first I thought it was a distortion, a memory looping back on itself, but it persisted. Careful, untrained, human. I followed it for 3 days until I found a young woman hiding in a collapsed metro station. She was shaking, terrified, but alive. She said her name was Lena. She could feel them, not like I could, not clearly, but enough to know when danger approached, enough to survive when others didn't. I left her supplies and maps. I did not tell her what she might become. Some truths must grow naturally. Years have passed since the world found its new balance. Time moves differently for me. Seasons change, cities collapse further, Forests swallow roads, but I remain anchored to the signal. I no longer count days. I measure time by migrations of the infected, by the birth of new settlements, by the moments when the world almost breaks again. Sometimes people leave messages for me, symbols scratched into concrete, stacked stones, old stalker signs that say more than words ever could. They do not ask for miracles. They ask for distance, for safety, for one more night. I give them that. I have watched children grow into adults behind walls guarded by the infected. I have seen wars that never started because the hive quietly redirected itself elsewhere. Humanity survives not because it is strong, but because it learned to exist beside something stronger. I am less human now. I know that. Faces blur faster in my memory. Pain feels distant. Fear almost theoretical. But choice remains. And that is what separates me from the hive. One day I will follow the echo I left behind. I will find Lena again, older, steadier, listening more clearly than before. I will not train her. I will not command her. I will simply walk away and let the silence speak. When that day comes, the world will not notice, just like it didn't notice when it ended. My name is Max. I was a stalker, and if you are reading this, it means I finally let go.